if someone is stressed, they're probably not able to lose weight. And that's probably the thing that's like lingering on their mind. Like, why can't I lose weight? And that's frustrating them. So they think, I need to do more cardio. I need to do more high intensity training because I've been told that that helps me burn fat. But then those workouts stress your body out even more. So it's kind of a vicious cycle that people go through here. They already have an underlying level of stress that is upsetting their body, and then they throw the most stressful possible workouts at their body to try and help them.
Welcome to Salad with a Side of Fries. I'm your host, Jenn Trepeck, talking wellness and weight loss for real life. We're here to clear up the myths, misinformation, bad science, and marketing to teach you how to eat and how to cheat. Are you ready? I'm having salad with a side of fries. Hey friend, welcome back to Salad with a Side of Fries. I'm Jenn Trepeck, your host and health coach, here with you every week for wellness without the weirdness. And it's been a minute since we focused on the fitness or movement aspect of our wellness. So we're bringing it back to the forefront today, and really from a very specific angle. So maybe you've heard about cycle syncing, where you adjust your food or other choices to where you are in your hormone cycle. So kind of similar to that, although I think this is even more universal than that. We're talking about syncing your movement choices to your stress, because we are all living in this modern world, which means we all have stress of some kind all the time. So let me introduce you to our featured guest. She's a fitness and stress-focused hormone coach and the founder of MFit Workouts. She helps busy, high-achieving women understand why their workouts stop working during periods of chronic stress and how to restore fat loss, energy, and hormonal balance without burnout. So without further ado, I give you Molly McNamee.
Hello, thank you for having me. That was such a fun intro. I feel like a rock star.
Yeah, good. That's the goal. We try. I want to get like sound effects, like the horn or whatever, but
Yeah, like boo, 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 boo. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But 7 years in, I haven't figured that out yet. So,
okay.
Yes. Well, welcome officially to Salad with a Side of Fries. And since we didn't get too much of your story and your bio, we're going to start there and then kind of use that as our jumping off point.
Perfect.
Awesome. Really quick, though, we have to tell our members what they're getting this week. So, friends, join us in the Happy Healthy Hub. Being a member of the Hub is the next best thing to working with me as your health coach. You get a recipe each week delivered to your inbox, curated articles and additional discounts from me and our partners, interview episodes like this one in full video, including some behind-the-scenes content, access to the community board where we can interact, ask and answer questions, and so much more. So all of this is yours for just $12 a month. Or if you pay for a year once, you get 2 months free. So that's a whole year for $120. Like, we've spent more money on less. So your recipe this week is for summer chicken parmesan. Actually, pretty fitting for today's conversation. I think chicken parm can be one of those like comfort foods that maybe you crave with stress. I often also hear that chicken parm is one of those things that people don't eat when they're focused on making healthier choices. So this is a better for you, light enough for summer weather kind of chicken parm. Absolutely delicious. So to get this recipe, plus this episode in full video, access to our community board where we can interact, ask and answer questions, you get to ask me anything over there. Go to asaladwithasideoffries.com/membership. From there, you'll click subscribe now, follow the prompts to enter your payment info, create your login to access the hub and all of your benefits. Remember, you're going to asaladwithasideoffries.com/membership. This shows your support for this podcast and, of course, your health. Okay, Molly, you've been a stress and fitness coach for 15 years. You had what you call hormone and stress issues in your mid-20s, and yet it was a concussion that really changed things for you. So what did all of that look like, and how does that inform the work you do today?
Yeah, okay, that's fun. Let's rewind it back a little bit to see how it all connects. So I have been working in the fitness industry for the last 15 years or so, but I didn't actually always have this focus on stress and hormones that I have now. So Before, I was just doing traditional personal training and nutrition coaching. So I was giving my clients workouts to do and telling them what macros to eat. So, how many carbs, protein, fat, all that stuff. And I was doing that because I truly believed that diet and exercise were the keys to weight loss. But I realized I was wrong when that stopped working for me in my mid 20s. So at that time, I was working out so much every single day, multiple hours a day. And I was also eating ridiculously healthy. But I was feeling worse than I had ever felt before. So I was gaining weight. I was struggling to build muscle. I was holding on to fat for dear life. And I had no idea why. And then also on top of all of that, I was dealing with some pretty severe anxiety and bloating and insomnia. And that was all very confusing to me because I was doing everything that they say you're supposed to do to look and feel amazing, and I felt really, really bad. And what makes me a little frustrated when I share my story is I think I would have continued feeling really, really bad if I hadn't gone on a hiking trip and suffered a concussion. So I went hiking alone, tried to be Tarzan, hit my head on a rock, and then had a pretty bad concussion recovery. But
Oh my
while
goodness.
I know, right? Crazy. But while recovering from that concussion, a lot of things actually happened. So I was forced to dramatically slow down my life. I was forced to rest more, work out less, all of those things that I didn't want to do because I was already struggling to lose weight, and I figured that would set me back. But when I started resting more, I realized, I'm not as bloated. I'm sleeping better, actually. I'm not as anxious. And then my weight started evening out. And that's when I went into what I like to call Detective Molly mode. I was like, okay, I don't think this concussion magically healed me. So what's going on? And that's when I started to put those puzzle pieces together of why did resting a bit more help with everything else? And that's when I really started to discover that connection between stress and how stress impacts your hormones and how stress impacts your body's ability to lose weight. And then once I started navigating all of that myself, it like opened my eyes to that so many other people were dealing with these issues. And even though that concussion was not fun for me, I'm really happy that it happened because now it allowed me to heal myself and it's allowing me to help so many other people.
Absolutely. And I think there's so many pieces, threads to pull on there in your story. And so I think maybe the place to start is you noticed your body felt stuck. You were having trouble really sleeping, relaxing. You had the bloating. What else might somebody be experiencing that's an indication that stress is the thing keeping them stuck?
So there are a lot of things, and now having time away from it, I'm realizing I had basically every classic symptom that should have been pointing me in the right direction, but I just didn't have the answers I have now. I actually have a huge symptom checklist on my website that kind of allows you to see, is stress affecting me? But some big things and some niche things that people may experience are definitely sleep issues. If you're struggling to fall asleep, or if you're waking up in the middle of the night feeling your heart racing or your mind racing, that's definitely a big indicator that stress is affecting you in a big way. But some of the things that we haven't talked about yet, if you have sensitive skin, or if your hair is falling out, or if you notice that you're bruising really easily, that's something that happened to me. I would wake up every day with a new bruise, and I'd be like, what was I doing in my sleep? But really, your body's just extra sensitive. So even just the lightest touch, like on the side of a table, can cause you to bruise. But on top of that, your immune system may be weak. So you may be getting sick a lot or having recurrent infections. At that time, I was getting recurrent UTIs and I didn't know why. And I thought that it was just my body hating me for some reason, but it was actually my body crying out for help. So getting sick a lot, your body feeling really sensitive. Also, if you're really jumpy, that's something a lot of people can overlook, but if you're jumping out of your skin every time your phone rings or anytime someone knocks on your door, that's a sign that your body is, functioning in a more stressed state. So those are a few. I could go on and on. There are a bunch, but I feel like those are some that people often don't think about necessarily as being connected to their stress. Like getting sick, you're like, something else is going on, but it could just be your body's stressed.
Absolutely. And then on the fitness side, you mentioned overtraining. So I see this a lot with people. What do you see as some of the biggest mistakes that people are making when it comes to the fitness side, given their stress and given some of these other symptoms that you mentioned?
Yeah, there are a lot of mistakes that people can make, and I don't know about you, but on my social media right now, there is a huge fight going on between fitness influencers of one group saying you shouldn't exercise at all if you're stressed, and another group saying, no, you have to work out because it's good to raise your cortisol when you're exercising and all of this. And I fall right in the middle where I think both camps need to calm down. Because the biggest mistakes I see are people doing just simply too much. And that can be too much of either end. So, something I'm a big advocate for as a coach is that to fix an extreme, you don't fix it with another extreme. Okay. So, the biggest mistakes I see people making with their workouts is they're doing way too much high intensity training. And they often do that because I'll rewind a little bit here. If someone is stressed, they're probably not able to lose weight. And that's probably the thing that's like lingering on their mind. Like, why can't I lose weight? And that's frustrating them. So they think, I need to do more cardio. I need to do more high intensity training because I've been told that that helps me burn fat. But then those workouts stress your body out even more. So it's kind of a vicious cycle that people go through here. They already have an underlying level of stress that is upsetting their body. And then they throw the most stressful possible workouts at their body to try and help them. And then we just keep going in a circle that gets you even more stressed, that gets you even more stuck. So the biggest mistakes, too much high intensity training and also just too much exercise as a whole. So a lot of people are like, okay, I'm working out an hour 4 days a week and that's not working. So let me add another day. Actually, let me make these workouts even longer. Okay, let me do even more cardio after I hit the gym. Doing too much is keeping your body stressed. And that's definitely a mistake that I made myself. So lived experience right here. So no judgment. But when you feel stuck, you think, I need to do more. But actually, you need to reevaluate, is your workout being supportive of what your stress levels are right now? So I'm not in the camp of don't work out at all. I'm not in the camp of no, raise your cortisol. It's amazing when you're working out and you raise your cortisol. I'm in the camp of evaluate each day how your body is feeling and adjust your workout accordingly. But it is so valuable to work out because it can be stress relief for a lot of people. And it is definitely valuable to have that intentional rise of your cortisol instead of just, stressing about a meeting. You can actually have a purpose to that cortisol raising. But yeah, I fall firmly in the camp in the middle where it's like, we're not doing
I'm with you.
nothing. We're not doing a lot. We need to find a middle ground that works with our body.
Exactly. So that's really going to be the focus of our conversation. Before we get to that, I think a piece that I really want to hone in on of what you're sharing is a mindset piece that more is more is better. How do you help people reconcile that mindset? Because that, I think, is this tug of war.
Yeah, and it is not a quick process to switch your mindset there. A lot of people, I think, kind of hope that they'll wake up being like, this is the way, and I've accepted this is the way, and now I feel so much better. But in reality, that's not really how it is. I work with a lot of overachievers, a lot of people who do have that mindset of more is more. And I'll tell you, it can take weeks or months or even years sometimes to fully remove that mindset from your brain. So the way I approach that is by baby steps of just like setting up your lifestyle so that you're allowed to do a little less, or maybe even you're kind of forced to do a little less. Because initially, that mindset is going to feel like, no, this feels so wrong. But if you start setting up your lifestyle so that you do have moments to pause, you can slow down, you can do a little bit less, and then you start feeling the positive benefits from that, then it's much easier to switch your mindset. So it's not an overnight process. It's not you can instantly switch your brain. I definitely find that once you start feeling successful with something, and if that something is doing less, then it's much easier to wrap your mind around, maybe this works. Like a lot of the clients that I work with do come to me feeling that way. And when I present to them, maybe we need to do shorter workouts and maybe we need to do less workouts a week, they instantly are like, that cannot be true. I don't trust you. And then I just ask for trust. I'm like, look, trust me for 2 weeks. And let's see if your body starts to feel even a little bit better by adjusting your workouts this way. And then it usually starts to feel a little bit better. And they say, okay, you've gained my trust. I still don't fully believe it, but I'll keep going.
I love this. And so when you say feel a little bit better, what are the pieces specifically that they're noticing so we can help everybody keep an eye out for the first things that they might see?
Yeah, the first things you might see would be more energy. You may feel not as drained all day. You may have a little bit better sleep, where you're able to fall asleep a little bit more easily, or you stay asleep at night. You may feel less anxious. Like if you are someone who feels anxious every day, you may be like, I didn't actually feel anxious yesterday. And that's incredible. Your bloating may go down. So it's really those physical symptoms that you're going to feel more so than like, okay, I hired a fitness coach because I want to lose weight and she's telling me to do less because it may help me lose weight, but I'm going to trust her for 2 weeks and then lose weight. That's usually not the first thing. You're not instantly going to feel your body change physically like that, but you are going to feel, I feel some relief. I have had people tell me before that it just feels like they can stop and take a breath, and that's a huge win. So if you feel like you've finally been able to relax for once in your body, then that's a really significant change that you will experience. That's also one of the reasons I really encourage people to track how they're feeling every day. Like track your bloating, track your sleep so that you can actually look at the numbers and be like, I actually did sleep a little bit better. And it may not be a lot better, but if you are tracking and you're aware of how much you're sleeping each day and the sleep quality that you're getting or your energy as a whole, you're going to see those minuscule changes for sure.
Absolutely. And I think this gives us the foundation for then putting the pieces together.
Yes.
So we'll come back for that after we highlight our sponsor for this episode, BetterHelp. Ignoring our stress signals and pushing through anyway, even pushing through workouts, we tell ourselves it's discipline. Spoiler, it's a boundary issue with ourselves. And when we ignore the signals long enough, stress doesn't only impact our workouts. It starts to impact everything. And that's where therapy comes in. BetterHelp makes it easier to start therapy. You take a quick quiz, get matched with a licensed therapist, and communicate by phone, video, or text, however you prefer. If the therapist isn't a fit, you can switch at no extra cost. Over 6 million people have gotten help through BetterHelp. They've earned 4.8 out of 5 rating on the App Store. Go to betterhelp.com/sideoffries for 10% off your first month. That's betterhelp.com/sideoffries. And we'll put the link in the episode notes because remember, boundaries with yourself are just as important as the boundaries with other people. Okay, Molly, our objective now is to put the pieces together, understanding what state our body is in, and then how do we match the movement to that. And I think my first question here is, I believe this is sort of my analogy that longtime listeners, you've heard this before, but so I think, do you remember the old success posters where it had like the iceberg and the water line?
Yes.
So I believe stress is the iceberg and the water line is our awareness to stress. And over time, that water line just keeps rising and rising. And so on a daily basis, I hear so many people tell me, stress isn't really that major of a factor in my day-to-day. So how can we even get clear on where we are with our stress to then match the movement to it?
I love that analogy. And of course, I hear that all the time too, where people are like, my life used to be stressful, but it's so much better now, or they're not really realizing that they're stressed now is really the answer.
Totally.
But how do we understand how stressed we are was your question, yes?
Yes.
So there are a few things I want to say here. The first I started to touch on before, but it is tracking how you feel and also tracking your menstrual cycle. These things can be super, super valuable because your body may be crying out for help, and you may not be hearing it because you're just simply not aware of your symptoms or anything like that. So tracking things like your bloating, your sleep, how often you're going to the bathroom, your energy in the morning especially is a good thing to track, really important. And then some cycle indicators like your basal body temperature and perhaps your cervical mucus. Those things can tell us a lot about your stress and also what your hormones are doing. And if your hormones are telling you something, that can also point you to stress. So we track all of these things so that we have some data that we can look at to be like, oh, wait, my body actually isn't functioning optimally. So why is that happening and what am I supposed to do about it? That is the base of what I do with all of my clients. We track things, we figure out what's going on, we figure out where that missing piece is, and then we start to gradually shift things. But another thing that I like to point out here, we're tracking symptoms and stuff so that we can just see some stress indicators, what our body is asking for. But also those people who say stress isn't a big deal in my life, I also like to point out, not to scare people, but just to raise awareness, that stress comes in so many different forms. And I think a lot of us get stuck on that emotional stress piece. That piece where it's like, well, my job is stressful. My relationship is stressful. I just had a conversation that was frustrating. I was stuck in traffic. Like, we're all very aware of that stress piece, but there are so many other things that can create a stress problem in your body. So there are those environmental stressors, like toxins in the air and in the products that you're using. There are digital stressors, like constantly being on social media and constantly being available all of the time. There are internal stressors, like your hormones could be imbalanced. You could have an infection you don't know about. You could have gut imbalance issues. And all of those things can create stress in your body. So I like to point that out because a lot of people who are saying stress isn't a big deal for me aren't actually aware that all of this other stuff could be impacting them. I was working with a woman recently who literally told me exactly what you said, where she said, my life isn't very stressful right now, but then she pointed out that she just had to have knee surgery. And then she also pointed out that she had a really tough childhood. So I'm like, okay, so there's trauma in your body. There's an injury you're recovering from. There's the medication that you're taking for the injury that you're recovering from. There's the financial aspect of you had to pay bills for that surgery. All of this builds up in a way in your body that you won't always register as mentally I feel stressed. Sometimes it's simply my body feels stressed, and that's why tracking those things like your cycle and your symptoms can be super valuable because, again, your body could be telling you something that your mind isn't registering.
Absolutely. It's, for everybody, the body keeps the score. It's all of these pieces where the body holds on to things even if we've mentally moved on. So help us make these matches. What are the movements that would go with various observations in terms of when we wake up or how we feel throughout the day or, walk us through it?
Yeah, so something I really encourage everyone in my community to do is a little vibe check every day. How's my energy? How's my mood? How did I sleep? XYZ. And if you're feeling good, like you're feeling really great, that's your sign you can probably push in your workout. If you're feeling really tired, you didn't sleep well, then maybe you need something that's a little bit more restorative. If you're feeling really moody and anxious and you're not sure why, there's a middle ground you need to find where your workout is maybe not the hardest push because you're not feeling your best, but maybe not nothing because you're not necessarily tired. You may need some movement to improve your mood. So really, it's just doing a bit of a vibe check. And one way you can do that, I do this every single day, use your warm-up as your test. Like when you're warming up, when you're doing like those 3 minutes of general movement to get your body ready to exercise, ask yourself, do I feel better after my warm-up or do I feel worse? And if you feel worse, that's a sign to dial it back. If you're feeling so much better, that's your sign to maybe push a little bit harder. If you're feeling totally the same, find some middle ground. So there are like a lot of obviously bigger cues that we could look at, but I think that that's a more approachable way to look at this versus being like, okay, I slept exactly this many hours. I am this bloated because this is my waistline. All of this stuff. Like if you get too into the weeds of it, that's just going to stress your body out more. But if you just in general take a little vibe check of how am I feeling today and adjust up or down in intensity in your workout, that's going to be super valuable. But there are a few things that I think everyone should be doing if they believe at all that stress is a problem in their body. And one of those things is don't ever neglect your cool down. Okay? Your body, workouts are always going to be a stressor. They're always going to stress out your body a little bit, but one of the mistakes, going back to the mistakes that I see people making is they jump from one stressor to the next, and they do that with their workout, where they finish their workout, they rush their cool down, they hop right into the next thing that they have to do in their day, and their body remains stressed. So if you can take a few minutes at the end of your workout to stretch and then lie down and just breathe, that's going to be so incredibly powerful because it's going to take your body from this stressed sympathetic state to a parasympathetic state where it's actually feeling more calm. So that's one important thing I think everyone should be doing. I mean, really, they should be doing it always, but definitely if you think stress is a problem in your life, I would highly encourage you to do that. And then also, something that I do with my clients is we like to have a plan A and a plan B for your workouts, depending on how you're feeling that day. So you can have that, I'm feeling the best. This is the ideal workout that I want to do. I have the time to do it. I have the energy to do it. My body feels good. But then also have a plan B where it's like, this is my backup plan in case I'm running low on time, low on energy, and high on stress. Because I think one thing that happens for a lot of people is when they start adjusting their workouts for their stress, they start to feel a little bit like a failure. Where they're like, I wish that I was feeling fine today and I could have just pushed through. But if you already have a plan, a totally acceptable plan B, then that feels a little bit better because you're still doing what you planned to do. It's just not, the ideal one that you wanted to do. Did that answer your question? I kind of went on a tangent
sure.
there.
And yeah, no, for sure. And I want to get even more granular and specific because it's funny. So as you were talking about the warm-up thing, I didn't even realize that that's essentially what I do. I tend to do a handful of the kind of the same workouts. Like I work out with a handful of instructors and we sort of do more or less a similar kind of thing most days of the week. So I might not necessarily do something differently than what I planned, but I shift how I do it or the intensity with which I'm doing it or how heavy the weights are or I might take more breaks, even though they're continuing on. I might do a few less reps or whatever it is. At the same time, like you said, I think there can be that mental piece of like, oh, I didn't give it my all or whatever. And so I think for some people, having a completely different movement pattern or activity might be helpful. So what are some examples of some of the things of how you sort of create the plan A versus the plan B or examples of some of the movement that still, and I say this phrase in air quotes, still counts and gives us the options to choose from?
Yeah. Well, first, it all counts. Something that I often say is you don't have to give 100% in every single workout to be consistent. Like consistency can look like 100% one day, 20% the next day, 40% the next day. So the way you're doing it is perfectly acceptable. But to answer your question of what are some movement ways you could move that we're talking about here. So looking at it this way, where it's, okay, we have, our cardio. We have those workouts that are raising our heart rate. Maybe things like you were planning to run, now you're walking. You were planning to run up a hill, you're running on flat surface. Like just figuring out how to adapt that way. But specific workout types, because I have thousands of workouts on my website. So when I'm working with clients, I'm literally assigning them workouts to do. So speaking in my language of what the actual workouts look like, we have fast-paced strength, the interval strength training that's keeping your heart rate up, that's helping you build muscle, all of that good stuff. Then we have the slower strength workouts that are still moving with heavier weights. And then we have the more Pilates style, the more yoga style workouts. So if someone is dealing with a lot of stress, what I'm probably going to do is I'm going to assign them those more Pilates style strength workouts, some more yoga and restorative and stretching workouts, as well as just in general, shorter workouts. So if they're usually working out, say like 40 minutes, we're now going to drop that down to like 20 minutes. And those 20 minutes aren't now harder. They're just the same kind of intensity, just shorter. But exact exercises that can look like in those faster paced strength workouts, we're doing full body movements. We're doing like a squat to a shoulder press. I'm going to use really basic exercises so that it's easy for people to visualize. Those big exercises, squat to a shoulder press. Maybe instead now we're just doing a shoulder press. We're just doing a squat. Like we're separating things so that it feels less intense to your body. Or we're doing more stretching, more mobility, as opposed to doing those strength workouts and doing those cardio workouts. So it really is like thinking different types of exercises, different lengths of workouts, but also how hard you're pushing yourself in those workouts. So finding a good blend in your schedule that includes those more intense workouts that are really pushing you to your max, as well as those more restorative workouts that include stretching, mobility, breathing, yoga, Pilates. That's the two big differences in the workouts that I'm using with my clients.
Absolutely. And I want to ask the question that's probably on people's mind at this moment, because you emphasized the cool down. And then when we think about those more restorative types of movement that almost feel like the thing you do in the cool down, what does the cool down look like for that? Is it just as important there as other times when the workout maybe is a little bit heavier or faster paced or longer or whatever?
That's a really good question, and it's still just as important. I end all my workouts the same, and it's with a shavasana, which is a yoga term where you're just basically lying on your back, closing your eyes and breathing. And I think that needs to be at the end of every single workout. Even those ones that are like, this was a slower Pilates style workout. I didn't even get off the ground. It couldn't have stressed out my body that much. It's still important just because it's giving your body a literal break to be like, okay, we're pausing before we get back into the next thing. And that's something that I advocate for in all of life. So not even just workouts, where it's like between stressful things, your body needs a second to pause and breathe. So with my clients, I'm like, okay, if you had a stressful meeting, if you driving through rush hour traffic, before you get out of your car, sit and breathe for a second. Just giving your body a chance to pause as often throughout the day as you can is so beneficial because we're constantly surrounded by stress. So we constantly need to have something going on to combat that stress. So while the workout is more restorative and it's probably not stressing you out as much, it's still so valuable to lie down and breathe or to sit and breathe after you finish your workout instead of just jumping into the next thing. Because, like I said before, the biggest mistake I see is jumping from stress to stress to stress. Your body never gets a chance to recover, so then it just stays stressed forever.
Right. Like we stay stuck in that cycle. So you started to bring something up there that it's like you're reading my mind, exactly where I wanted to go, which is this idea of stress syncing our lifestyle. So what you started to say as far as pausing in the car to take a couple deep breaths, noticing the meeting that really has you sort of tight inside. What are some of the other pieces of stress syncing our lifestyles, our habits, other pieces to this besides the movement that you'd love people to pay attention to?
Yeah, and so this is the one thing, like you mentioned before, cycle syncing is trendy. This is similar but very different. But one piece of cycle syncing that some people expand into is like, okay, what am I going to eat at this phase of my cycle? What habits am I going to create at this phase of my cycle? And my approach with stress syncing is exactly the same, but just with stress. It's like, okay, if I'm feeling a certain type of way, I'm going to encourage more habits. I'm going to encourage possibly these specific vitamins. I'm going to encourage possibly these specific foods. So some ways that can actually look in your body and in your life is Say you're dealing with a lot of stress. Maybe you start drinking electrolytes. Maybe you start drinking more water. Maybe you fix your posture a little bit more frequently throughout the day. It can look like physical habits like that, where it's like, okay, I'm actually taking a deep breath. I'm actually closing my eyes. I'm actually sitting up a little taller. And those things are helping your body calm down. Those are some of the first steps that I take with every single one of my clients, is introducing one or two really simple 5-second habits that they can incorporate into their day just to help their body feel a little bit less high strung. But the other end of that is, okay, why are we stressed? Which is why we're tracking things. And you may be like, okay, I'm stressed and I've noticed that I get a little weird at this stage of my cycle. I get really bloated. And it's like, okay, where can we incorporate a specific supplement? Where can we incorporate more water? Where can we incorporate more fiber? And where does that make sense based on how you're feeling with your stress? So there are a lot of ways you can do this. It can be food, movement, mindset, you name it. You can stress sink in a lot of ways. Just think of everything you do throughout your day. And then we think, how can this maybe be a little bit more supportive of my stress? And not everything has to be supportive of your stress, but finding those key places where either you can incorporate a habit like a posture check or a deep breath or a slight meditation. That's one end of it. Or you could be like, okay, I'm feeling more stressed. So how am I going to tweak how I eat this week to support that stress?
Yeah, one of the things, and we can get more specific there, I think, too, because one of the things that's so counterintuitive when we're stressed, because the stress and the cortisol can create the cravings for the sugar and the pasta and the breads, carbs, baked goods, all the things, the processed foods that have a craving and an emotional piece, and they add to the physical stress on the body.
Yeah.
So it can be counterintuitive to say, I'm feeling extra stressed. Maybe what I need are some raspberries.
It does feel totally counterintuitive to do that, but that's exactly what I'm talking about, is things exactly like that, where you become more aware. And I think one problem that a lot of people face is the not knowing they're stressed, right? They're not knowing really why they're reaching for sugary or fatty foods. They just are. And then they start to blame themselves. They're like, maybe I don't have willpower. Maybe I just suck at dieting. They think that that's a problem. But once you become more aware of your body, I do think that step actually becomes a little bit easier, because you become aware that you are stressed and that your body needs something. And it's actually counterintuitive to be like, my body needs this thing, so I'm specifically not going to give it to it. Like, once you're aware, it's easier to then be like, okay, I'm going to do what it's asking for. So it is, I feel like the knowledge and the awareness of your body makes that easier to make better choices
Absolutely.
when you're stressed. Yeah.
Agreed. All right. Well, a final thought to wrap this up.
For me,
Yeah.
it's just really, I like to encourage people to really pay attention to how your body is feeling, because your body is constantly talking to you. For women, your period is like the biggest report card of how you're feeling. So if you just can pay attention to even your period every single month, that can give you so much data about your stress, about your hormones, about everything that is going on. Just listening to your body, paying attention to those indicators, that can help you start to put the puzzle pieces together of why you don't feel your best. I think that a lot of us are searching for answers of why we're not getting the results that we want to see, or why we feel so bad. Maybe our doctors aren't even really giving us the information that we need, and we just feel kind of lost. So I really like to encourage people to take control of your health again. Pay attention to what your body is saying. And then if you don't know how to translate that language of what your body is saying, that's when it's helpful to work with a coach and be like, this is what's going on. Tell me why. And looking for coaches who, have that knowledge of that holistic health versus just trying to rely on a medication or an answer that you found on Instagram.
Absolutely. And I'll just add to that, for, most of the women I work with are perimenopausal, postmenopausal. And so you're going, well, my cycle just adds to the confusion. I get it. It's still communicating with us, and we still have tools and we can still understand it.
And there's still so much you can track when you are going through perimenopause. Like, it's so
Yes.
valuable to track, especially at that time, because your body is already going through a lot of changes. So if something is glaringly making it worse, then you can fix that. And stress is definitely a big thing that you'll want to focus on if you are in perimenopause, because stress is only going to make that process harder for you.
Absolutely. All right. It is time for our rapid fire off topic questions. Are you ready?
I'm so ready.
Okay. What's the best thing you've done for your health this week? What's the naughtiest thing you've done related to your health this week? You know, like the salad and fries of your week.
Amazing. Okay. The worst thing I've done for my health is embarrassing. I've become really addicted to this mobile game on my phone. I downloaded this mobile game because it was going to save me 10 cents a gallon at the gas station. So I downloaded it, but then I can't stop playing it. So my screen time has gone way up. And
Wait, now I have to ask what game?
what is the name of this game? I will tell you right now. It is called Travel Town.
Okay.
Don't download it. It'll ruin your life. I'm kidding. So I've been playing that a lot. It's made my sleep worse, I need to fix that. Bad for my health. The thing that's good for my health, I'm trying to think of something unique here, because obviously I exercise a lot, I track my cycle, I do all those things. I do a lot of healthy things. I'm looking at it now. I bought a new fan. I think that's the best thing I've done for my health, because I don't have central AC and we're going through a heat wave. And when it's hot in my apartment, I cannot sleep. So just simply having that fan has helped me sleep better this week.
Awesome. If you weren't a fitness and stress coach, what would you do?
Okay. Well, my first dream was to be a fashion designer. So maybe I'd go back to that dream, because that still sounds so fun to me, because I crave doing creative things like that. And I do miss creativity in that sense. So let's say that.
Awesome. Favorite book on any topic other than your area of expertise, or you could give us a fiction book.
To be honest, I do read a lot of trashy fiction books,
Love
just
it.
because I like to turn my brain off. But to actually recommend a book that I love, that's not turn off your mind, it's actually How to Heal Your Drained Brain. That was the first book that I read that really helped me understand stress and anxiety in a way that blew my mind, because I've dealt with anxiety my whole life, and it helped me really find a new perspective on mental health.
If you could cure one ailment, disease, or sickness, what would it be?
Cancer. I would choose cancer. I know that's not adjacent to the work I do, but if I had a magic wand, that's going away.
If you were a superhero, what would be your superpower?
I would want to teleport. I hate flying, but I love traveling, so I need to be able to teleport.
What's your biggest pet peeve?
There's probably a lot, but the first one that popped into my mind was loud eaters, or people who eat really loud or drink really loud. I'm one of those people who mouth noises really makes me stressed, so probably that.
All right, last one. In your opinion, what's the next frontier in wellness?
That is a really good question. I want to say, and maybe this is just a hope and a wish, but I have seen a pattern of this online. It's people coming back to the fundamentals of health. I feel like my entire life, people have been chasing trends, like the newest diets, the newest workout fads, the newest pills. But I've been seeing an increase more and more of people respecting just going for a walk, just doing a workout, just eating a little healthier. And so I think those foundational things are really going to be something people start respecting more, as opposed to just chasing trends.
I see it. I talk about it. Yeah. Well, Molly McNamee, thank you for being here. Tell everybody how to connect with you, where to learn more, and stay in touch.
Yeah, so I am all over the internet. So if you simply just search my name, Molly McNamee, you will find my website, which has all of my resources. But I would actually love to give your listeners a special gift, if that's okay.
Go for it.
So if you listen to this conversation, you really related to it, and you're like, okay, stress is a part of my life, I don't know what to do about it, I want to gift your listeners the first step that I take every single one of my clients through, which is all focused on stress. So they're going to get a free training that's going to help them figure out what their biggest stressors are, where they're coming from, what to do about it, and what the first habit you should build to help stress feel a little bit better in your body and in your life is. So if you want that free training, you're going to get videos, resources that you'll have forever. You can get that on my website, which is just my name, mollymcnamee.com/podcast. So go there, because you won't find that free training anywhere else. It's just special for you guys.
Awesome. And we'll put that link in the episode notes with everything. So thank you for being here, for sharing your energy and expertise. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Yes. All right, friends. On Friday, in this week's bite-sized bonus episode, we're talking about Cool Whip. So I have to give a shout out to Valerie M on Instagram for this one. So she mentioned it as another kind of mystery food that's out there, similar to Velveeta, where we're sort of like, what is this? And it's funny too, because I see Cool Whip in so many summer recipes that we just have to talk about it. So we're going to look at it together on Friday in this week's bite-sized bonus episode. So be sure wherever you're listening, click the plus sign or the follow button, and then your app will alert you when it goes live on Friday morning. Well, as always, everybody, I'm Jenn Trepeck. Connect with me on Instagram or all social media. I'm at Jenn Trepeck, JennTrepeck. Website is asaladwithasideoffries.com. Pick your platform, send a message. I love hearing from you, your takeaways, your ideas, your questions. This is also the easiest way to learn more about working with me as your coach. Molly McNamee, thank you one more time for joining us this week.
Thank you for having me. This was so much fun.
Oh, good. I'm so glad. And friends, if you are not already a member, join us in the Happy Healthy Hub. You'll go to asaladwithasideoffries.com/membership. This shows your support for this podcast, this community, and above all, your health. On top of this week's episode in full video with some behind the scenes pieces, your 24/7 Ask Me Anything and the community board, you'll get this week's recipe for the summer chicken parmesan. So until next week, remember, more is not always more. Harder is not always better. And perhaps the best thing you can do for yourself is pause, move your body with a little less intensity, and carve out time for that cool down. Well, friends, that's it for today's episode of Salad with a Side of Fries. Congratulations for making yourself and your health a priority. Thanks so much for joining us. Be sure to click subscribe or follow on your favorite podcast platform, share us with a friend, and we'll be back next week. Always remember, you deserve it and you are worth it. Happy healthy.